Alright guys, where you go from here? Well, hopefully there's something like this, because it seems like it would be a lot better. So, at one of my trips to Coral Castle, this here is the center core, I guess. There's a little dent on the side here. Mike from Space had mentioned about the tripod fell over, and he was saying this apparatus there was inside the tripod. Not yet really to be determined. There's your measurements for that piece. There's your measurements inside the pipe going down on the side of the motor block. There's your depth going down the block or down the pipe, almost 42 inches. There's your width of the inside and outside diameter of the flange. There's your gap in between the magnets and the pipe, cement all around it. There's that electric motor that's on the side that's been there attached. Those are measurements of that apparatus. I personally don't think that was in the tripod. I think that's a misbelief. Here's the bottom part of that coil. And some of the tuners he had. There's that coil. There's that generator he had, model number, attachments. There's the model number. Bam. One thing I wanted to show here is this is one of his glass bottles, and look what he done to the bottom. Let me stretch it out a little bit. There is a punch out in the bottom of the glass bottle. He has contacts at the bottom. Contacts in the bottom of the glass bottle with the jars. Okay. Pretty interesting stuff. There is the same shot, looking at the contact, and he had the bottom of this cap, I guess, somehow screwed to the bottom of that bottle, with wires still coming through it. There's a little better picture of the contacts. This is one of those plates I was talking about that had the end was pointy with the gouge, and on the other end was obviously pounded down. You can see, and there's my voltmeter, there's my measuring tape, my notes. I'm over at Ed's machine there at Coral Castle, taking measurements. But that is the same groove line that's on all the boulders. Here's a closer up version of the points and the grooves. Ed's wheel to your left. There it is. You can see that it has the beat down ends. In the front had the point. So obviously he drove these under the boulders, and I believe that he put a clip on the end and put electric into it, and then he wrote it the coral rock. Here's another shot with me taking the one of his pieces laying around. It looks like a lawnmower blade, and putting it on top. You can see that he has this thing in the back with the round cutout. That looks like the round cutout would fit around the pipe. Then you can look in here and see that there's something that is sticking out right about there. There's something sticking out there. Can't see anything else, but it's the inside of his wheel. And then there's that wooden block. There's another picture, a little better, clearer visual picture of the inside of Ed's wheel. There's a sphere sitting on top of the 5 layers of magnets. There's another one sitting there. There's another one sitting right there. And there's another one that's right there. So there's 4 of these guys I keep noticing. And there's that infamous wooden block in the back with the motor attached. There's one of Ed's handles. Look at that one all eroded. Small crank handle. That's Ed's hat up there. Here, it's me when I poured the water down at the base of Ed's motor block there. That's the crank, and that's the water. Obviously, and the water puddled up there. And then there's a close-up view of the puddling. Then I wanted to show off some of Ed's work because that's a splice. It's a seam going down that top ring. And then you can see the gap right there. The metal ring and then the gear ring. This is a close-up picture of one of those spheres. I noticed that it's off magnet. It's got a good gap. Then again, if you look up, what is that sitting there? There's a lot to be questioned here on Ed's product here. There's the inside the wheel. That's the concrete. That is the post that has the wire wrapped around it, but there's no wire in the post. And I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. This is a clear view of inside right here of the post and the magnets, and that's one of the spheres sticking out. That is the bottom ring here. So pretty much what you have here is a lot of mysteries and a lot of stuff that's visible that is left. He left it all for a reason. Some reasons we don't know why. But this is where we're at with my replica here of Ed's wheel. We have the top bar put in, pretty much tough to bend up. Got that center post. Got that clover ring going around. Notice it's only touching the other bar at 2 points. A couple other things that I noticed is that the center part of this post, the top part resembles the North Pole and the bottom part resembles the South Pole. And it seemed to take on its own kind of magnetism because these magnets are built around it. Well, go back to some of the pictures I got here. This is my wheel when I first started. You got your block here and your flywheel. Then you got Ed's wheel here going on the inside. There's this wrap around this top bar. That's a visual picture there of, there's the wire. and then there in that void, it's hollow. And then there's a close-up of the outside with right here you got the paper that's separating the ring from the magnets. Then you see the round ring, and then the clover ring, and then the bar sitting there. There's a picture there of Ed's handle. And what you need to notice is that there's a copper flange around, and then there's some kind of material that's around a metal post. The metal post, the neodymium magnet sticks to, it doesn't stick to that, and it doesn't stick to that. So it's kind of isolating the fact that if you grabbed it, there's a better look at the tie down. There's a good visual of the tie down and the rod sticking up the handle. Also there. You got a good visual there of the magnets. You can see the top layer was a little burnt out. Here you can see there's paper sitting right there. Here you can see the top part of the magnet's got a little more burnt part. You can see the paper sitting right there to isolate those magnets. So good look at the wheel. Another look at the wheel. Nice other look. Center hub, and that the fact that this is connected to the center hub, which this side would be positive, that side be negative, and there's the sphere sitting there, obviously on top of the magnet, separated with the spark gap sitting there. And these are how some of the things that I come up with. There's that copper or brass. There's the inside of the wheel. So there's another shot of the separation between the rim and the ring. There's a close-up of that sphere in the concrete. There's an inside shot. There's a visual of the bottle with the connection underneath that was punched out of the bottle. There's some of the tuners, which I think the tuners were actually in the tripod, not that round thing that Mike had mentioned. I believe he's off there. Basically, these tuners are whatever you're putting out, you tune in, and these ran down the tripods, I believe, which we're going to try some studies. I don't know what these equipment pieces are. You got these pieces up on the wall, some more tuners, some pieces, some more pieces, more pieces, the bottom of that coil right there. You got Ed's tripod with a big box on top. And if we could do anything, let's open up the box. So there's the box, pretty big on top of that. Obviously on the tripod you'd have to tie it down, so it's tied up there. And then you got this big huge box, and then on the side there you had a ladder, pretty much. You could run up the side and make some adjustments. So there's not too many pictures there to really run off of on Ed's tripod. There's some more parts there. There's all kinds of bottles hanging. There's another one there. There's this machine that's there that got gears on the top, sort of like whistles at the bottom. And obviously something turned it. Very strange looking machine. If anybody's seen it, mention it. This is a drill head made out of a crankshaft. It's got an angle iron there, bam, with a handle. Pretty creative. This is a visual here of looking down the pipe with the concrete attached to it. You know, you can see how far away it is. There's another visual. There's a looking down perspective. There's one here that shows the spark gap key, the sphere. There's one sphere that's there. There's another one that's right there. And come a corner, there is one that's right there. So you got 4 spheres, not 2, Mike. There's another close up. You got one there. You got that one there. Is 2. You got 3. And that one there, 4. So obviously there's 4. Something sitting up above. That there is great visual there. Bam. So one thing I do want to show is I had a trip to Coral Castle that I don't know, there was nobody really bothered me, so I took video. And what's interesting about the video is I was able to really walk around inside his work area and really, you know, take some measurements and do stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is bring you back over here, and I'm going to show you my little journey and some of my experiments at Coral Castle. Now I want you to notice that as I'm panning out here through some of the visuals, I'm also taking mental notes of what I'm looking at, what's left over, what's been in place by other people, and what's been in place by Ed. So you gotta kind of take it all in perspective. And obviously that was a gauge with a dial on it. There's some kind of resistor. Some strange looking little parts, a double coil there. Some attachments, some kind of tuners. Obviously he was using stuff from all over. Junkyards and transistors and ham radios and everything else you see. These are all these tuners, and I believe those tuners were on top of the tripod. There's Ed's little thing there. There's his tripod up top. There's the box, and that's where I believe he had the tuner. And there is his saying up there. Actually, not his, obviously the concession stand. And then you look at some of these coil wrap downs. I don't know what that is to the left. There's one of his U-shaped magnets. Top part of that coil coming all the way down. That is the same measurement that goes in that pipe. There's the wire that sticks out, comes out. Nothing but paper, thick steel wire. There's that bottle. The bottom's all punched out. And then you got the other part of the bottle. You got all wire connected to those. So it's hard to tell what was hanging there and what they hung as far as the castle goes. I would assume they hung all this shit. I didn't think Ed really set this up at all. There's some of the rafters up there. I dug into those, and they were all filled in at some point. Some kind of most frequent questions overheard here is from the front office. There's those slabs I was telling you about where Ed was pounding those in underneath the coral rock. There's that crazy looking machine. It looks like whistles down bottom and some kind of gear up top that made them all hum and whistle. There's his bending machine there. Bunch of those steel rods. He had gaps going up to his living quarters up above, and pretty much I think that's where he ran pipe up. Don't look at the electrical stuff because they added that. Look at the rafters up top. Look at the wraparound steel wire he had. That's his machine in that old video from Mike from Space where he's cranking and moving the boulders. That's that lever that he was using. So that's hung up there. There's that drill. There's the infamous block with the motor on there. It's a Ford motor. There's his wheel there. That's my hand grabbing the wheel, turning the wheel. I just wanted to feel it, feel what Ed had felt. Didn't feel much, but it never took off on its own. There's that pipe. There's all that steel that's on the side of the pipe. Ed's got a lot of tools in his workshop. You can see that everything was basic. That's me getting behind, looking back there, looking down the pipe, not seeing anything in the pipe. Nothing but a big hole. But you see, I took measurements of it. You notice that block in the back has a cutout to go around the pipe. Now, originally I thought that cutout there went around that pipe right there. But I sort of believe now, through something I'm going to show you on a couple other pictures I have, that pipe back, that block actually sat back there with that motor, and that motor was a timer. Pretty much, you need something to time. Either you're going to use underneath the motor, which would be here, is the crank. Look in these cylinders. You don't see much, right? And I didn't see much, I didn't notice anything when I was there. It's hard to really notice if there's anything in the cylinders. Moving the camera around really quick. So that's what it looks like underneath the block. There's your wood. There's the magnets. There's the top part. Notice that there's all kinds of things going on there. So this is my wheel. And from at this point, all I really have to work from is the things that I showed you from past videos and past kind of experiences, and actually talking on blogs and stuff like that. So there's some more videos I need to show you guys because it shows off some things that give me reason to kind of understand why there's other things going on besides what we see. Because basically what you have is the block left over, a pole, a hanging bracket, some old pictures, some writings, a bunch of massive block moved around that pretty much we see some things. But I need to go back to some of this stuff. Now, this is another trip that I took to Coral Castle, and I kind of work again on the backdrop of that. Obviously, it's old wood. It wasn't added later. Look at the cutout around the pipe. Look at the motor goes to the left. There's that motor. There's the center hub with the key. I want you to notice that key there, one side's positive, one side negative, so you're coming out both sides, then you're joining out here and you're inducting out to that area. Now when I mentioned about the what's holding up the wooden blocks, there's your wooden blocks. So look at that, he's got a valve drilled in the side of the wooden block with some wire holding down that T-bar he had up top in that picture. And look at that. There's some angle iron. I wanted to talk about that angle iron. There's the other side. Look at there's the angle iron right there. There's the other side with the valve on it. This is what you didn't see in the other part I showed you. Look inside the cylinder. Look at the burn marks. Look real good in the cylinder. What's that look like to you? It looks like another metal pipe. Look in there good. There's what's holding up the top brackets. There's another grounding pipe inside the block. Outside the block. There's underneath that wooden slab. That's the bottom part of the valve. It's all gouged out, all right there, for some type of steel rod. There's a visual for the top part of the wheel. There's that angle iron. Does anybody know anything about shielding? Because what I think is going on is here, right here, you got your metal pipe right there. In the front, you got angle iron coming across, and then you got angle iron going this way. And what that's doing is allowing the wheel, if you're sending energy through this angle iron, it's the same thing as shielding. You're allowing, you're giving the wheel itself a push just through the 90-degree angle of the angle iron. There is also a picture of the pipe or the glass with the connections underneath dangling down. Ed's wheel or Ed's hoist. Some Ed's wire. This is the baling wire he had going around the compound. That story I told you about him having metal on the soles of his shoes so he can stay grounded. Seems like he was moving a lot of that stuff around. Here's some of the tuners. Some of the other pictures I took. There's a good picture of the pipe that goes down the ground. There's a cement coral rock on the side. There's a big slab, and pretty much right down in here is looking in the cylinders. So this pipe is not behind the cylinders. Evidently there's me spinning the wheel. There's a look at the burn marks right here, and no burn marks here on the wheel. There's a picture there of the bottom part of the block, and you can see obviously there's something inside the cylinders. So he's definitely got, here's the upside. You can see someone had mentioned that there was the piston rods. There's one, there's two. They're holding up that angle iron steel, which travels left to right there, which if the rods are coming off the block, they're magnetized. They're coming out to the angle iron, traveling that energy down, all in one momentum. So it's giving that wheel push. There's one of the spheres that are in the wheel. There is the tire wire with a gap in the bottom, so you can see that the pole in there has no wire wrapped around it. There's Ed's keeper there, his key. It's a spark gap. It's coming off of positive and negative, coming around together and gapping out. There's Ed's sign. And a couple things, there's his obelisk. A couple things I want to mention is if you look at this, look at the trench marks he built in his quarry, and then look at the bedrock he left at the quarry, and then look at, see, 7-foot tall slabs with slits in it. If you look in there, those slits are the same as those steel rods I was showing you. There is his living quarters up top. His wheel is sitting right about here. what's stopping him from having a basement underneath there. And you can see the trench marks. This is Coral Castle, and this is all the marks on the wall in the same quarry that's looking at the obelisk over there. And then this is a great visual picture there. Then I'm going to bring you over to close to his living quarters. Here's his living quarters up top, the roof, where he had a tripod up top there. This right here where my arrow is where his machine was. Obviously, he must have a basement underneath there. And this is the 3-foot drop down to his quarry, which you can see his walls and all the marks. One thing I wanted to mention, that this has been a journey and a look into Ed Leedskalnin's past. Got to look at the answers, got to look at the clues, got to look at the questions. You guys have a great day. Peace out. Happy Memorial Day.